Yeah.
That's what it is.
I mean, that's... I was thinking of going for like a dragon or something, but I could not make a character on Zodiark, so I had to go with an old, basically meme Catgirl character that I created and did not touch at all. But you know what? I'm actually having fun thus far. So I was doing that. Basically, like, actually reading the quest text is important. Now, the game provides, it shows quest text to you via conversations that you click through like it's a JRPG, like it's an RPG.
Because it is a JRPG, yeah.
Now, that is so much more effective than how WoW does it by default, which is just click an NPC, wall of text.
Yeah.
And if you want to solve that problem within World of Warcraft...
So, as you were saying about the narrative of Gridania, all the little things coming together into the bigger things.
Yes,
all
that
the
worked quite
experience
well.
of that. Yeah. So, here's the thing about that. That's Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
It never stops that.
That's the thing.
It just also has massive moments as well.
It seems like it's, I'm playing like the worst bit, but it just kind of goes better and better and better and better.
Oh, yeah.
It gets, oh man, it is. I don't know how to put this. I was relatively unsold on ARR when I finished it.
All right.
I was like, right, this is good, but it's not great. This is fine. This is perfectly okay. And then now I want to go back into the past and punch myself in the head for not keeping up with FF, because 5.3 is, after finishing 5.3, which is, that's when all of the expansion stuff ends. 5.4 and onwards is lead up to Endwalker, and then some other side stuff. It is my second favorite game of all time, without even thinking about the MMO part.
That's
in terms
pretty
of just
big.
the story it tells. The one game that beats it is Nier Automata overall.
He likes it more than WoW.
Completely insane. And it's all based off that same foundation. It's all that same foundation of just, here's a couple people. They've got problems. Are you going to help them? You go, fuck it, I'll give you a hand. Every time you show up somewhere new, it's never, oh, hello, venerated one. Don't do any bullshit. Here's the big problem. It is just like, right, someone's there, and it's part of the main story quest. It's not just side quests where it's like, all right, go help this person with their like menial thing or their trivial like tasks and stuff. And it's a lot of it is like, people here aren't really trained for combat. You're really strong. Go sort them out. So you fight stuff, and then someone's like, go pick some things while you're there. And it's just consistently being treated like an adventure is absolutely insane.
I've liked that so
it's
far,
completely
actually.
insane.
Yeah.
And they keep that the entire way, even as the character builds up a reputation as being, the hero of the story. It is still, like, I saw, this is a long time ago, or the post was from a long time ago. I think it might have been from around Heavensward time. Maybe it was early Stormblood. But someone on Reddit posted saying, your main character is barely a character sometimes. You're basically you're a tool. You're like a gun in the back pocket of other characters, and you're just used to point and shoot things. Like, oh, we've got problem solved. Pull out the main character, and through that, especially when they start to add dialogue choices later on, that really feel meaningful and go back to previous things. They're not massive. They change the next line of dialogue, but nothing else essentially. Where somebody, you can make you could say a funny thing, and the character will respond going, you're such a bell end. Anyway, off we go. And
I think that those choices in dialogue, even though they don't have like a huge impact, I think that they're very important for you to role play your character and give you at least the illusion of agency throughout the story, which is pretty cool.
Just works so perfectly because you're the one who's done all this immense stuff as all these other characters are doing main character things. And it is absolutely unbelievable overall. It is unbelievable. And it's purely from that thing of, they started it there, of learn about these people, learn about this place, and just do that over and over again.
It's that thing where I get a humongous feeling that it's a slow build that is going to pay off.
It is,
which I know it pays off basically from everybody that I've heard.
It really does.
The duties, which are kind of like scenarios that you're bumped into for like key plot moments, they've been good too, and you go into them really quite seamlessly. I know it'll be way better in the future, but what I've really noticed is like even the Realm Reborn cinematography cutscene
It's really good.
stuff,
Yeah.
it is less jarring than World of Warcraft Shadowlands is.
It really is.
Way less jarring. And I think that just goes to show
Yep.
how much better those RPG elements are handled by Shadowbringers. And basically, the World of Warcraft stuff looks completely fucking incompetent in comparison. And
Really does.
I've seen some in-game cutscenes that happen in Stormbringer that I think you showed me, or Stormblood, it was like a year ago. And those absolutely, you know, it was like, they looked like actual video game cutscenes that you get in a, you know, a video game with a campaign that you play, but it was there in this MMO. You compare it to the WoW ones where, you know, you've got Tyronda's mouth, you know, doing something, her voice is doing something completely different, and the animations looking all janky. And also a thing that makes the WoW ones look completely embarrassing. Their art style doesn't match the game they're making at all for World of Warcraft sometimes. Now, I don't mean the art style of the world. Of course, a part of art style is animation, how things are animated. So the acting of WoW's characters is completely incongruent with the narrative. You know, you've got Laura Bailey giving this big performance, and then Jaina with these humongous eyes, this incredibly overexpressive face. And you look at that and you're like, wow, what is going on? This is a weird cartoon, but the voice acting doesn't actually match it. Nothing, you know, it all feels bad and weird. Whenever Blizzard do, you know, those in-game cutscenes they started doing in Legion, and they've never looked good. They look better now than they did in Legion, but actually it's weird. In Legion, Blizzard, it's like they knew they looked bad, so they use them sparingly and they play to their strengths. But now Blizzard will just flat out give you a close-up of a character's face and it'll look terrible.
Yeah.
And it's also like it's, I mean, cinematography seemingly done by just a
And why do you,
game designer.
and here's the thing. Why do you think Blizzard is giving you close-ups of characters' faces? Like, think about it. Who did that first? Oh, right. Final Fantasy XIV, been doing that for a while, and they're like, oh man, people really like this close-up, this cinematography, huh? Let's copy that. Except not be nearly as talented as the Final Fantasy XIV team at telling a story. That'll work.
Like, look, for an example, for our game development, you know, a recent build that we reviewed, very happy with it, very, very happy with it overall. But some of the staging and, you know, placement of characters and composition was clearly, you know, it's stuff that, I mean, we know it, like, it wasn't done by the art director because it wasn't done by the art director, and it's a very early passive thing, so it's fine. But it's one of those things where it's like, that's important. It's important to get those things right. WoW completely fucks that up, and Final Fantasy XIV seemingly is doing a better job than WoW now in A Realm Reborn. I know it does a far better job based on the Stormblood stuff you've told me. And then from what I understand, by the time you hit Shadowbringers, they had massively upgraded a bunch of their camera tech and stuff to the point where it is truly incredible looking.
Yeah.
So that's rough for Blizzard. They have not made the investments to compete with Final Fantasy XIV narratively. And then I think also in Final Fantasy XIV, they are, I think, obviously way more willing.
The only thing that Blizzard invests in is their goddamn cast shop. That's literally the only thing they invest in. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that we have the Mythic Plus problems that we constantly have because Blizzard doesn't give a crap about Mythic Plus. It's embarrassing that you have constant balancing issues. Like seriously, just imagine this, right? The achievements for Mythic Plus is on plus 15s. On release of Shadowlands, you quite simply could not do that with a warrior unless you're like the best player in the goddamn game. You couldn't do it. Like you want to go with a warrior tank to a plus 15? Everybody in your server will laugh at your ass. They'd be like, you didn't see Wowhead, dude? You didn't look at Wowhead to know that your class is not fucking viable? It's just too bad, man. Sucks to be you. It sucks to be you, bro. There's like, why do you think that when I played Shadowlands, I played a paladin? Like seriously, you think I wanted to play a paladin? No, I wanted to play a warrior, but I couldn't. It's that simple because if I wanted to do the mythic level things that I wanted to do and actually time them and have a good time with them, I knew that I couldn't play the class that I wanted because it quite simply was not viable. Wasn't viable. And I remember so many people saying, "Oh, it's not a big deal. Like you can do anything with any class. It's fine." And I'm like, "Yeah, if you go up to +10, maybe. But if you want to go higher than +10, and even at +10, you're going to be straining your group playing a warrior because it sucks. It sucked. Now it's actually good because they fixed it. Because that's how it goes. They're just like." I once read a comment in a forum thread in World of Warcraft, I think, and someone said Blizzard balance classes by dropping an anvil on one side of the scale and a piano on the other. That's what they do. They drop an anvil on one side, a piano on the other one, and they hope that stuff just kind of like balances out. That's how they do class balancing. Whereas in Shadowbringers, in 14, you can play whatever class you want. All the classes are viable within like a very small percent. Like there is a point at which some classes will start, going a little bit above others, but the difference is so small that you can play whatever class you want and it's not really that big of a deal.
To do things slowly and to earn their big moments, whereas it feels like Blizzard loves their own lore and thinks that they deserve their big moments. That's basically it. It feels like Blizzard thinks they deserve their big moments, whereas Final Fantasy XIV thinks it needs to earn its big moments. That's what I've got from people so far, and it's definitely meshed with my experience of the game thus far as well.
That's entirely it. An expansion will be, over 3 patches, over like a year and a bit. They'll drop stuff at the start of an expansion, and then it'll pay off at the end.
Yeah.
But even better than that, there are so many callbacks and things that I remember happening.
Tu queres telemóvel pra ti.
In 2.0, characters that are important, events that are important, things that have happened, and sometimes they're a little bit kind of just callback to in a sense. But after finishing Shadowbringers, it's like no, there are things that they have told you at the start of 2.0 that if you don't remember them, your experience will be worse. And not in the way at keep all this shit in your head, but in the case of this is a linear story that they have told. They've told it piecemeal because they've had to, because they can't tell it all in one go, but they've told it over, 2013, 2019? They've told it over 7 years. And it has been absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
I think that specifically the recent main scenario quest writers are they are next level. They aren't just good writers for video games or good writers for an MMO. They are literally good writers. Especially with stuff in 5.3, there's a level to it where I had to stop and I was like, fuck me.
I guess
that is unreasonable.
there's something we need to engage with here. Blizzard are good at making worlds and building lore.
Yeah.
I do not think Blizzard are good writers. And I've never understood why people think that Blizzard are this renowned storytellers.
Yeah.
And I want to dive into that point a little bit more. You look at, say, StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
And how they... look, I kind of like the StarCraft 2 story for what it is, and it's fun to go through, but it certainly does not live up to the promise of StarCraft 1 and what it established. Basically StarCraft 2... you got is basically Jim and his relationship.
Yeah.
We kind of know there's very real life parallels with Matsson's life that he has admitted are actually what drove a bunch of that creative direction, which of course I don't really like how it went down that way. But there's that. Diablo 3. Fucking hell, what awful storytelling that game has. What a
Thank you.
disaster.
I don't remember.
Thank you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I feel like there's actually people that defend the Diablo 3 story. What a fucking joke, dude. What a joke. Jesus Christ. The Diablo 2 story, it wasn't amazing, but it was okay. Diablo 3 story, it just takes a dump on the story of Diablo 2. It doesn't give two shits. You just ignore things that were key elements of Diablo 2 and just what? You killed Deckard Cain just for to get a reaction out of people for no other reason. In the middle of the game too, in a completely freaking just he's dead. It's what? Deckard fucking Cain, dude. What is wrong with you? Jesus, middle of the game? Yeah, okay. It was in Act 1. Never mind. Yeah. So it's I loved playing Diablo 3 after Reaper of Souls. It is important. After Reaper of Souls, after Loot 2.0, Diablo 3 was fun, and I loved playing it from a gameplay standpoint, but the story was terrible, dude. It was atrocious. Final Turk, if you played it at like the very start of Diablo 3, it was really bad. It was really bad. Like, Diablo 3 was the only Diablo that I did not reach maximum difficulty on, at the very start, because I actually stopped playing. Like, I got to a point where it was like this. I was playing Diablo 3, and I was like, okay, I'm enjoying this build. I'm enjoying this thing that I'm doing. I'm going through, and I'm like, damn, but all I'm getting is blues. Not even yellows, okay? Not even yellows, just blues. My inventory was full of blues when I was like in the final acts of Diablo. Actually, this was when I was going through Nightmare. I was already going through Nightmare, and it was full of blues. And I'm just like, dude, this is ridiculous. This is insane. Like, I don't know who thought this was gonna. This is terrible. So I go onto the auction house, the gold auction house, not the real money. I would never spend money. I go to the gold auction house, and I'm like, okay, here's a sword that I can use. I'm gonna buy this. And then I buy the sword, and I'm like, okay, I can keep playing. So I play a little bit more, and then I realize, okay, I've out-leveled this sword. I need another one. So I go into Act 3. I farm a bunch of gold, because you have that section at the start of Act 3 that's just like a bunch of mobs on top of the wall. So I'd go through that. I'd run that over and over and over and over, grind a bunch of gold, and I'm like, okay, now I got gold. Go into the auction house and buy an upgraded sword. And that second time that I did that, I was like, what am I doing? Like, literally, what am I actually doing? This is a loot-based game that I'm basically like playing this like a goddamn Chinese gold farmer. Like, no joke, that is what I was doing in Diablo 3. Playing the game like a Chinese gold farmer, okay? And I do this so that I can then go buy a weapon, so that I can then keep playing, so that I can do more gold farming, so that I can then go buy another. And I was like, when I saw that loop in front of me, I was like, this is not why I play Diablo. Like, I play Diablo to get cool loot dropping from the monsters, not to go buy it from an auction house. I don't play Diablo for like, hoarding gold. And that's also when I realized, I'm like, oh, you remember when people said at the start? Because I said this before Diablo 3 came out. And there were people that were giving me crap about this. I remember this so well. It was a long ass time ago. People were giving me crap when I started saying, like, you guys do understand that they're going to balance this in a way that there's not going to be good drop rates to incentivize people to go to these auction houses. And people would tell me, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. They're not going to do that. That's exactly what they fucking did. That is literally what they did. They lowered the drop rates into the dirt, like right into the dirt they did, right there, boom, to the ground, to the point where all I had in Nightmare was friggin' blues. Imagine playing Diablo 3 on Nightmare with blue gear, which is like the most basic of, the only thing worse would be white gear, which doesn't even have affixes on it. It's like, imagine playing through Nightmare Diablo, because at the time there wasn't Torments. It was still Nightmare in Hell or whatever it was called, or Inferno. I don't know. I remember they had different names. But imagine being on that second difficulty of Diablo and only having blue gear, because that's what I was doing. And I was buying blue items with gold because I wasn't even getting enough blue drops to keep me going. And I was like, dude, what is this trash? This is hardcore trash. So not only it had a terrible story, it had terrible just everything. It was just bad on all goddamn fronts. And eventually when Reaper of Souls came out, they got this guy, Josh Mosquera, who went in there and he kind of like fixed a lot of the problems that the game had. And that's when they released the console versions as well. And I was like, this is a much better game now. And that's when I actually started getting really into it. I really, really enjoyed that time. But yeah. Cough Assassin's Creed cough. I don't know. Oh yeah, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and them fucking funneling you into the store to buy your coin doubler on this game that you paid 60 euros for. A fucking coin doubler. Jesus Christ. Was I the only one that got to Inferno? Maybe. I didn't go that far because like I'm not gonna sit here and like grind this out like goddamn Chinese farmer. That's not the point. Hey, grats, Q. Q got his new PC. Damn, dude. Grats. I remember playing Wizard and having to play Critical Mass and just button mashing everything for about 5 minutes until a white mob died. Yeah. Like you said, creating a problem, then they sell you the solution. Exactly. After playing PoE, I can never go back to playing Diablo. I can't get into PoE. I would love to get into PoE, but I can't. I can't do it. I wish I could.
Yeah, and then, you know, in World of Warcraft, I mean, Blizzard have made bizarre narrative decisions for ages.
Yeah.
You know, their world building, their lore stuff has been cool, but their actual storytelling in-game has always been shoddy. You look at Battle for Azeroth, where, I mean, they raced through their lore so fast and were so bad at really explaining
It was
things
still
well.
better than
It's like
Shadowlands.
the only good Blizzard storytelling happens in transmedia narrative, not in-game.
Way better than Shadowlands.
So I guess for me, it's like super jarring
Leaps
to
and
play an
bounds.
MMO and have good storytelling within the MMO and not just as a part of the transmedia narrative and broad world building facts that are interesting. So, you know, it's like the Starfang thing that everybody liked.
Yeah.
That was like a short movie that people watched and had an emotional reaction to. That wasn't video game that people played and had an emotional reaction to. So it's, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't really know how Blizzard can fix up this problem because it seems institutionally they're just sitting there being like, oh yeah, you know, we're here to make awesome moments and epic narratives. But it's like they need to slow down and spend more time setting their things up. Sort of in recent times, they have just blasted through so much lore that it's like their storytelling hasn't been able to keep up with the pace of like the broad narrative movement they've been making. So that's an issue. And I think there's a space where a lot of people, if they can find themselves able to go and play something Japanese that feels different and get into it, and actually have that suspension of disbelief, then I think it will be a lot more successful for not the lore side, but it'll be more successful for the storytelling side, I think.
Yeah, that is exactly what Nikki experienced going through, because obviously he's a big anti-weeb, and he's just like, now that he is happy to suspend his disbelief and has done it, he's like, no, this is absolutely insane. If you can just let those preconceptions of what this is or what you think this might be go, it's next level. It's next level. And World of Warcraft, I don't know how they can solve it without completely rethinking everything they do and write and all of their pacing. It's a case where they need to look at their 10-year plan or 5-year plan or the plan for next expansion and just throw it out.
They need to stop, like,
That would imply they have a 10-year plan. They don't. Like, Blizzard planning at this point is on a monthly basis. I wish I was joking, but they're probably planning the story out month to month. Because, I mean, they don't have one. They just don't have a plan. What's a plan? It's like you ask Blizzard about a plan and you hear something from Joker. Joker going like, do I look like a guy with a plan? I'm a dog chasing money, because they couldn't be a dog chasing cars like Joker was. No, they're a dog chasing money. Wouldn't know what to do with it if I had one.
need to stop having the level up experience of their expansions have so little bearing in the end game.
Yep.
Like, there's a bunch of flavor and context. It's all fine and interesting, but it's almost as if 2 expansions in a row, it's like you hit max level and then things actually kick off. Because it's like, you know, we've learned a few factoids and stuff, but for Zoval and Sylvanas as actual characters, you know, people with motivations, we learned kind of nothing about them as we leveled up.
Yeah, it was just introducing you to all this other stuff.
Yeah, so it's like, what if all of that time where we were dealing with, you know, killing bugs in Ardenweald, we actually were learning about the characters that would be core to this expansion. So, and then I think back to, you know, all that time we spent in Culture.
Garanta uma lavagem da louça 100% eficaz e sem preencher
Yeah.
agora com uma fórmula melhorada e mais
Yeah.
Sun, imbatível.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys understand all
And
that.
Zandalar.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of get we were solving those problems, but it's like that was an expansion about Battle for Azeroth, and I felt like The Battle for Azeroth happened. We weren't there. We were just
Yeah.
We were then world building these two islands that we would sort of not end up being that important, really.
Yeah.
So it's that weird thing of Blizzard's just like, bam, bunch of stuff and a time-gated campaign for the story that actually matters. Whereas I'd rather they were just like, slow burn through the entire thing.
Yeah.
And then not having that time-gated Covenant campaign, because I think, I don't know what
But that's
FF
what
does,
Blizzard's
but
good at.
certainly,
They're see
it's hard to reconcile.
That's Blizzard's biggest skill is time gating things. They're like they got that shit down to a T. Like how you can remember how there was the thing about the what was it called, the war fronts, where you could only really experience the first war front if you had already paid for like 3 months or however long it was, and then you could only experience the next one if you paid for yet another month. So it's like content that's literally in the box of the game, and you have to wait for like 4 months to actually enjoy that content. It's so ridiculous.
A well-paced narrative with 30 minutes or whatever, 40 minutes a week.
See, what it does, like, I am not aware of any time gating it does outside of this isn't out yet. Unless you consider go do this fight time gate, because the MSQs will just go, right. It is now logical that there's a dungeon that you're going to do because there's a thing to do in it. There's a problem to solve in it, or you need something from it. So you go, you party up, you go into that dungeon.
Yeah.
And then same with trials, where the end bosses aren't like raids that you don't engage with at all. The end bosses of like all your content, of your patches, are trials, as they're called, which are, here's a single boss in a room, you queue for it in the duty finder. It's not extremely hard, but it's difficult. If you don't do mechanic correct, you die. Most mechanics are telegraphed in a way that if like you learn the design language, don't stand in orange. For the first couple boss fights, if you don't stand in orange, you're fine.
Is it maybe a good analogy here, perhaps Onyxia or Sartharian, as in kind of one boss that the raid can go to, versus a current WoW world boss?
Don't even dare.
Like, is that our
yes,
sort of
it is
difference?
very much Onyxia. It is very much Onyxia. It is very much like the last boss of Crucible of Storms in isolation. It
Gotcha.
is a raid boss that's a little bit simple, that you queue up to, you go in, that's it. That's it. There's no like, but that stuff usually is an intro cutscene that will like the at the start everyone waits for you because they're forced to in trials. It's literally you can't pull the boss until people have either skipped the cutscene or watched it all. And then they usually end with an ending cutscene, and then you'll be teleported beside the entrance to the raid, or the trial, because you're supposed to, like, basically it brings you up to a point where it goes, here's the fight.
Yeah.
And then there's a thing you can click that will open the duty finder for you. You can do it from anywhere else. You can go do other things while you wait in queue. But then at the end of it, teleports you back there. So it is this like seamless bit of, here's MMO boss fight in the middle of your single player JRPG. Because I saw someone in chat there say,
cool.
I'm not going to scroll up to find it because it's long gone. But someone's saying it sounds like very much just a single player RPG. Where's the MMO? That's one of the kind of biggest things about it. It's both. That's what I kind of don't get, how it's so, like, it is, to me, it feels miraculous that I finish playing, like, however many hours of single-player content in Shadowbringers, like 30, 20, something, 30, of just, I am leveling, but I'm not leveling. I'm never leveling. I'm never thinking...
You're playing a story in a game.
I'm playing through a story, and then at the end of that story, I am level 80. I've had an incredible experience. I've had 30 hours of this shit is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you don't really have to focus on leveling at all. I mean, you used to. I don't know how it is if you're not playing on a preferred realm, though, but I think the idea with Final Fantasy is that you can always just mainline the MSQ, and then you can do side quests if you want to, but they're always, like, optional. Previously, a while back, you would have to, like, do some quests to catch up to MSQ. Just do side quests and you're fine. No, don't do that. Not playing on a preferred realm, I'm constantly above the level required. Yeah, I think that they've changed it so that you no longer run into, like, roadblocks unless you're leveling multiple classes. Like if you're leveling multiple classes, then you can run into roadblocks. Like I think the few times I did run into roadblocks was because I was the level cap for Heavensward when I got to Heavensward. And so I was like, oh, I guess I'll just level up another class while I'm going through Heavensward. And I started leveling up a different class. And that did cause me to hit a couple of roadblocks. But if you play one class from beginning to end, you're never really going to be like hitting roadblocks in the thing. Actually quite annoying because I lose spells on Black Mage. Yeah. That's actually one of the more annoying parts. And it led to me having an even harder time at setting up my bars, because you then have to go back to older rotations and you're just like, God, no, I can't do that rotation anymore because I got rid of that ability. I didn't needed it. And then you have to like go back and do things differently. But yeah, that is annoying. I wish they would do something about that, but I don't know how to balance it, because I think it'd be pretty friggin' weird if I'm popping off confettiers in like Sastasha. I don't think that would make a lot of sense. It's like, yeah, let me just pop off this 50k ability. Boom. It's like I'd get to a boss and like confettier exploded, boss down instantly.